Hey guys, it's Jack Cypher here. I've just woken up this morning and seen that we have a new chapter of One Piece. So that's what today's video is going to be about. We're going to be reviewing chapter 1121 off the top of my head. Now, I will preference this, like all my last few videos, this is going to be completely non-scripted. So if you guys start to see a notice of tangents and me talking over myself, that's what's happening with it all. I will also mention, unlike the last chapter, there's a lot of different, not perspectives that we see, but we see a lot of different characters make a spotlight in this chapter. And just so I can, not leave any details out, like I did in my last chapter review, I somehow forgot to include that Atlas died in the last chapter. I don't know how I completely missed it from the review, so apologies for that one. Let's hope that doesn't happen this time. And, to put measures in place so that doesn't happen, I have made dot point forms of everything I want to talk about, and even had a couple of pictures of my phones for the big pages that have lots of different things going on with it. So if you see me looking down or away and stuff like that, that's just me checking my notes. So I'm sorry about that. Once again, like I've been preferencing, if this video is too raw for you guys, I completely understand switching off. But if you want to get my perspectives on what the most recent chapter of One Piece has given us, then stick around and we're going to decipher everything that happened. Before the chapter starts, we do get a nice cover page of the Straw Hats, big version of Nami, looking as sexy as always. Bit of a shame that we're not continuing the Yamato adventure. I'm really enjoying seeing where that's going. Hopefully that will make an appearance next week. I'm not actually sure if we have a chapter next week, but whenever our next chapter is. But let's start with the chapter, and we have Saint J. Garcia Saturn attacking the Giants, basically where one of the areas we left off last chapter. And we have Luffy and Bonney in Gear 5th, Sun God Nika forms, fighting him off. Luffy's preferencing, telling all the Giants and Bonney, do not let Saturn's legs or pincers or whatever you want to call them, his poisonous bloody spider demonic legs touch you, because they're poisonous and they're going to rip right through you. Now, Bonney being in Gear 5th, or her version of it thanks to her ability. I'm not going to touch on that in this chapter. I'm going to make a whole video on Bonney and everything that her powers represent. So rather than having this video get bogged down by 20 minutes of a tangent that I know is coming, I'll save that all for another video. But as the fight's going on, Luffy deflects one of Saturn's poisonous legs away from Bonney. And we see, as the fight's going on, we see Vegapunk's recording still going. I kind of assumed that this would be, one or two more paragraphs I said in my last chapter review. What a fool I was. I believe the whole chapter had Vegapunk talking over it, so he's still going. But I will say that I do think that this is finally the end of his speech. The way he wraps it up was just perfect. Chef's kiss. But as Vegapunk's talking, he's talking about that the truth of the Void Century is going to be found out, and it's going to be found out soon. And he talks about the fact that the ancient weapons, he doesn't say ancient weapons, but we can all, read between the lines of what Oda's telling us, that the ancient weapons are still being in use. Now, ancient weapons, Pluton, Uranus, and Poseidon. This was very interesting because as he's saying this, we get visuals of Vivi, Shirahoshi, and Cronus. Now, the Cronus one, I don't think is, I don't think they're telling us that Cronus is Uranus. I think Oda's shown her just to depict the Sky Islands, because we know that Shirahoshi is Poseidon, and we know that Pluton supposedly resides in Alabasta, which makes sense for Vivi. And we know, well, we don't know, but we've always theorized, God, I can't speak today, that Uranus could very well potentially be up in the sky. And I do reckon that's Oda kind of confirming it. I would. I've never really spoken about him on this channel, but I'm a sucker for Enaru, or NL, depending on your pronunciation of it. I really do love him. So it would be such a shame if he doesn't come back. So what are we guys thinking? Enaru comes down with Uranus, or if he doesn't come down with it, he gets reintroduced the same time that Uranus does. I think that would be pretty cool. I will say, though, that in terms of the ancient weapons, we've never really talked about it on this channel before. So, like I said, we know Shirahoshi's Poseidon. Vivi and Pluton, like, what's their connection there? Oh, obviously, I don't reckon it's Vivi's Pluton. I reckon that's, 100% guaranteed that she isn't. Um, I am kind of going with the theory, though, that she is necessary to awaken it, or, unlock it from where it currently is. Because we know her ancestor, Lily D. Nefertari, was, back in the Void Century, she was someone who possessed the will of D. She was the forefather or foremother, I guess you could say, of the Nefertari family. And we have no idea what's happened to her. So I do reckon Vivi is going to have some part to play in awakening Pluto. Um, Shirahoshi being Poseidon did make a lot of people for a long time, because we found this out years and years and years ago, that the ancient weapons were all going to be actual living people. I don't think Oda's going to go down that path, though. I do think that there might be specific living people like your VVs that are necessary to bring the ancient weapons back into the play, but I don't think VV will be one of them. But leave down in the comments what you guys think of, one, when Pluto will be introduced, how it would be introduced, like where it currently is, and just Vivi's future story in One Piece, what she has, what left she has to do, because we've been seeing more and more in her lately, and I definitely reckon she's going to team up with the Straw Hats again. But the next pages are Vegapunk again talking about the unique races of the One Piece world and the discrimination they face for just being who they were born as. This kind of touches a little bit on the last chapter and Clover's opinion that he wants to change this world from a world where you can be killed just for having the letter D in your name. And Vegapunk's touching on this a little bit as well. We see Kuma's past, and him being a buccaneer and the trials and tribulations that he had to deal with being that. We see Marco have a flashback of when Whitebeard mentioned the gods that used to live up on the Red Line. And then we get a visual of King, so it's going into the Lunarians then. And we also see Pudding. Haven't seen her in a while, but with her 3 eyes, a very unique race that we haven't seen before in One Piece other than her. So those are 3 races that have received heavy discrimination, more so than the others. And it would also be more, I shouldn't say more so than the others, because the Fishmen are probably the ones that have received the most, let's call it what it is, racism. But I think because those 3 races that we just saw, Buccaneers, Lunarians, and the 3-Eye Tribe, is that because they've all been wiped out already. So there's only, a handful of them left, less than a handful of them left. So while people like the Fishmen, the long-arm tribes, the long-neck tribes, the giants, all that type of stuff, while they're facing this harsh reality of what the world is and how a lot of the world views them, they also still have each other. They still have family, like a lot of the time at least. and they can still receive comfort from their own kind, but the races that Oda's touching on here, like, the Lunarians, we only know of King. The Buccaneers, we only know of Kuma. Pudding. The Three-Eyed Tribe, all we know is Pudding. Is Pudding a race? So I do think that that's what Oda's trying to show us here about these are probably the three that have suffered the most. Now, we go back to the fight against Saturn, and Bonney gets up to try to attack him, and Saturn insults her about how she's just parroting what she's seen. Basically, like I said, we're not going to get too much into Bonney's powers here, but it is kind of confirmation that Bonney's a power to replicate the Sun God Nika form. It's never going to be as strong as... Oh, sorry. It's never going to be as strong as Luffy's. Or not so much as strong, but it's never going to be as authentic as what Luffy has. But that doesn't stop her and Luffy from having one of the coolest scenes that we've seen in ages coming up. She might not be the real thing, but this knockoff can certainly take care of Saturn. Now, I'm going to go down to my notes really quickly and look at this next page, because we have a lot of different things going on here. So, the big picture that we have Sun God Nika Luffy and Sun God Nika Bonney teaming up in this big panel using an attack that's called Liberating Nika. Liberating Nika Punch, is it? Give me a sec. Yeah. Liberating Nika Punch. And they use this punch and knock Saturn all, like, complete. It looks real, actual. Oda's drawing on this, the way Saturn's face is kind of like crumbling apart. It looks really badass. And he goes flying. But as this is going on, we get a real emotional and heartwarming, for a lack of better word, speech from Bonney. She talks. When she sees Saturn, she knows that he's the one that bullied and tortured her father. He's the one, in her words, that hurt her daddy, which was very touching to see. And she talks about how all she ever wanted, like, Bonney isn't someone that cares about power. She doesn't care about any kind of frivolous stuff like that. She's still just a little kid. All she really wants is to have her mummy and daddy back. And as a parent myself, that's really touching. She talks about, and this is, more of a touchy subject, and I don't want to, trigger anyone, but she talks about the loneliness that she felt was, worse than death, that she wanted to die all that time being alone, being forced to be separated from her father, being separated from her mother before she could even, remember her face, essentially. And I know a lot of people who are watching, well, maybe not watching me, but a lot of the people that are reading these chapters will very well could have experienced this type of loneliness. I know I have. I'm not going to make this a self-help episode. I'm not going to go Dr. Phil on you all. But for such a young girl to have to deal with everything that she has, everything that she's had to face, watched everything that her father and mother had to face, it really, the name of the attack, Liberating Nika Punch, is just so fitting, because you can just feel Bonney being liberated from all her past grief by being able to just punch the shit out of the smug face of Jay Garcia's Saturn. It was a great scene. It's up there with, best scenes of the arc so far for me. Now, let me go back to my notes. Give me a second. So, we see, like that on that page, it's mainly just everything I've just described. I do just want to mention, we've already talked about it, we get a beautifully drawn picture of Bonnie's parents, and it just, like, when they were young and happy and just not all the worries that they needed to have in the future, and every negative and tragic thing that happened to them. So that's just really heartwarming to see as well. We see Kizaru and Sentomaru as this is all going on. Kizaru looks like he's, lying down on the ground. Um, I don't necessarily think this is just showing that he isn't capable of getting up. I feel like Kizaru has been beaten in more ways than one, if you get my drift. He had his fight with Luffy, of course, but we did see a lot of kind of inner turmoil might be a strong word, but we definitely got the impression that he didn't want to be doing what he had to do here. Like, he liked Vegapunk, he liked Sentomaru, he didn't want to have to fight against them. So he seems just to be totally beaten down and exhausted from all of this day's events. Now, as Saturn's getting the shit kicked out of him, we have Vegapunk that's going, or like once again going over his speech. And he's talking about those that are the most oppressed are the ones closest to the truth, which I think is quite beautiful, actually. And it's very fitting that Bonney and Luffy are literally using liberating Nika Punch, just going to show that we are getting to, and Vegapunk pretty much says himself here, the answers are going to be found, and from the sounds of it, it's going to be found soon. So just seeing Luffy with the power to liberate people, and Vegapunk talking about the ones who are oppressed are the closest to the truth, we kind of see where this type of thing is going. Soon, those people that are the most oppressed are all going to be liberated, if it hasn't already happened, and that we are going to finally find out the truths of the Void Century. Vegapunk tells us, or tells the people of the One Piece world, that they all need to be on guard. That the battle that's going to ensue over this is going to change the world like no one has ever seen. Probably like no one's ever seen since 900 years ago when the world government was founded. This is the events that are going to happen are probably the only thing that are comparable are what happened 900 years ago. And we don't even know what happened 900 years ago. It is going to be massive. Vegapunk talks about that he has faith in humanity, faith that humanity will find wisdom and lead themselves to a better future, at least is the way I interpret it. He also mentioned about how he has faith in science, which I thought was a cute moment. But he mentions that 2 years ago, Whitebeard did it, and 25 years ago, Roger did it, but that the legends are being left in the past now. It's the future people that are going to be the ones that really change this world. And he talks about whether or not Roger knew this. And, this isn't mind-shattering or earth-breaking news. I think a lot of us did kind of, have this opinion that Roger didn't just turn himself in and get himself executed, one, because he was dying, and two, because he wanted a bunch of people to go on a grand, merry adventure and find the One Piece and rule as king of the pirates for frivolous purposes. I think that Roger knew that that he obviously wasn't the one who was going to be able to do what needed to be done, what they found out on Laugh Tale, that it would be someone in the future that would. And Roger knew that the person who would find the One Piece and, find the truth of the world is going to be the person that wants to be the most free. The person who is liberating everyone and who's literally embodies personal liberation. Luffy's not held down by anything. So I do think Roger's execution was very, very much planned by him, and that is a very, very Chad move there. Even though he was going to die anyway, just to give the world government the satisfaction that they killed him wouldn't have been something that Roger just wanted to do willy-nilly. He's made a sacrifice here. He could have spent his last remaining months being with Rouge and just living in contentness, talking to Rayleigh, that type of stuff. But he chose to go out trying to better the future. And I just think that is really cool to see. Now, we also mention, I don't also mention, Vegapunk also mentions that the person that finds the One Piece might not be the one that Joy Boy wanted to find it. And I think that is really, really cool. And I'm going to say something that's probably going to trigger a lot of people. Now, I don't personally subscribe to this theory, but there are those that reckon Shanks, for instance, isn't as good intentioned as what he leads us to believe. And as Vegapunk's talking about this, the panel that this happens on, it shows Hachinosu Island, so Blackbeard, and it shows the Red Force's ship. It shows Shanks. Now, it could have just been a coincidence because the next page that we get is going into Buggy, so obviously it's going over the Emperors. Obviously they're the ones that are going to have the biggest say in how the war for the One Piece goes. But I just find it very ironic that that was the page that Oda chose to put that little prompt in. Just a bit of a nudge, I reckon, of what some people might think of Shanks. And I think Oda's done that either as a red herring or, hey, even though I don't subscribe to it, that might be the truth. Shanks might be not as good of a guy as we thought that he was. But I do think it's quite cute that he's done it. I could be reading just way too much into it. Let me know down in the comments what you guys think. Do you guys think that Oda did it deliberately? Did you guys even notice it? Is it just something that I'm reading too much in? But I'd be very curious to see what everyone's thinking about that. And as I mentioned, the next scene we have the Cross Guild, and we have Buggy. We have Crocodile and Mihawk being in the background, looking very perturbed. But I can't speak today, and I'm not counselling that. You know what I mean. Looking very grumpy, and as they would, I do reckon those three's interactions are some of the funniest things we've had in One Piece, and I always enjoy being able to see them on my screen. That's, we're getting close to the end of the chapter here. Let me just make sure I haven't missed anything. No, because after the Cross Guild, we just get a picture of Marine headquarters. We have some no-name Marine inside the building talking about that they can't just sit idly be. They need to go find the One Piece as well. And there's another Marine that says, "You fool, we can't do that. Who's going to protect all the civilians?" Which is a good point. But obviously the Marines are going to go for the One Piece. Once they see all the pirates gathering to make a move for the One Piece, they're not going to let the power get so far out of balance to have the pirates gain that amount of power. They're going to be trying to stop them. Sakazuki will probably be going in himself with the other three admirals. Years ago, Oda said that the battle that's incoming is going to be the biggest battle that One Piece has ever seen. We're going to have the Emperors. We're going to have the former warlords. We're going to have every pirate known to man. We're going to have all the Marines. It is going to be the Revolutionary Army. Everyone is going to be there, and it is going to be an epic battle that I reckon will make Marineford look like child's play. But we have Vegapunk, and the last page, he talks about that the ones who decide this world, the ones who are going to decide how this world goes, are the ones who's going to find the One Piece. And I don't know if this is just my weird interpretation of it all, but he's very much pulling a Whitebeard and Roger move here. Roger did it in his execution 25 years ago, and Whitebeard did it 2 years ago at Marineford. Vegapunk's following examples. He's literally dying, or he's already dead, and he's sacrificing himself while telling the world about the One Piece, and kind of tantalizing people about the prospect of, you decide how this world goes if you find it. Now, of course, those people that are going to be tempted by that, we know that they're not going to have, those random pirates in the West Blue or whatever that's like, yes, let's go find let's go find us the One Piece and decide how this world's going to go. We know that, not going to be in the mix here. It's just foreshadowing that the One Piece is just the be all and end all of it. The ones who do find that are going to be the ones that, decide how this story is going to end, let's say. And I do think Vegapunk's sacrifice here in telling the world just the sheer importance of the One Piece and finding out, because at this rate, does anyone think that we're going to find out the truth of the Void Century before they find the One Piece? That's going to go, that's interconnected there, don't you guys reckon? That once they get to Laugh Tale, that's when they'll find out what really happened. I mean, at this rate, the Void Century is as big of a mystery as the One Piece, especially if you're including the will of D into the knowledge of the Void Century. Those two are head and head. I do reckon we're going to find that out all at once. As Vegapunk's talking about it, about the One Piece, like deciding everything, we have some visuals of Dragon, of Sakazuki, of Eam Sama, of Aokiji, of Sabo. So all the key players that are really going to be determining this war, all the players that are going to be fighting over the One Piece and are going to show us how this story is going to end. But that's everything to do with the chapter. That's everything we find out. Got great scenes between Bonney and Luffy, specifically just Bonney herself as well. But punching out Saturn was amazing. And Vegapunk pulling a Whitebeard and Roger. I really wasn't expecting that. Do tell me down in the comments if you guys are reading that differently than I am, that you guys had a different interpretation of it. But it does seem like that's what Oda's trying to... He loves his mirroring and inheritance of wills and stuff like that. That does look like what Vegapunk's doing here. And to see him come this far from the man that didn't want to get involved, saw no need to get involved, is just great story writing in my opinion. So I was really, really happy to see Vegapunk's actions here and how it ended, inspiring everyone to get up off their asses and find this One Piece. Thought it was really, really great writing. It's going to be a bit of a struggle to find out what I'm going to put as a thumbnail here. Is it going to be Bonney? Is it going to be Luffy? Is it going to be Vegapunk? I'll have to do some thinking on that one. But for right now, we're going to wrap this video up here. If you guys have liked it, if you've got this far, I'm assuming you've liked it. It'd be great if you guys could leave a like and a comment and subscribe. I'm trying to upload at the very, very most every 3 days. Hopefully every 2, preferably every 1. Let's see how it goes. Right now I'm on a huge, like One Piece is my favorite anime series. I'm on a huge One Piece, how shall we say this? Very much have One Piece momentum behind me, and all the videos I'm bringing out lately are just One Piece related. I haven't forgotten about the other series that I love. I will on this channel, I will most likely just be doing One Piece, Naruto, and Bleach. The big 3. Ironically, they're probably my 3 favorite series. I know that makes me very basic, but those are the 3 that I'm probably going to be going over. When Bleach comes out, the new core of that, I'm going to be reviewing every episode of that as well. So let me know down in the comments if that's something you guys would like to hear. But for right now, I've been Jack Cypher. It's been my extreme pleasure to decipher this most recent chapter of One Piece. But have a very lovely day, guys. Peace out.